Somewhere in your life right now, there is a person smiling at you who does not mean it. There's someone celebrating your success out loud while quietly hoping you fail. There is someone calling themselves your friend who has never once shown up when it actually mattered. The ancient Stoics lived in a world of emperors, senators, and courtiers who mastered the art of fake loyalty long before social media ever existed, and they left behind 12 rules that will change the way you see every fake person in your life by the time this video ends. Rule number 12 is the one almost nobody talks about, and it is the one that will finally set you free. Rome was a city built on performance. Senators smiled at men they were quietly plotting to destroy. Courtiers praised the emperor to his face and mocked him the moment he left the room. Friends borrowed money with promises of loyalty and disappeared the instant repayment became inconvenient. If you think fake people are a modern invention created by social media and curated feeds, you are mistaken. Fake people have existed for as long as human beings have understood that appearing loyal costs nothing, while actual loyalty costs everything. The only thing that has changed is the scale. Where a Roman senator once had to fake sincerity in front of a room of a few dozen people, today a single person can perform fake concern for thousands of followers with a single post, and never once be asked to prove it means anything. The Stoics did not have the luxury of avoiding fake people. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded every single day by men who smiled at him while scheming against him, and yet he wrote in the privacy of his own journal some of the calmest, clearest guidance ever produced on how to deal with insincerity without losing your own peace of mind in the process. Today we are walking through 12 of those rules, translated for the world you actually live in, so that the next time someone smiles at you and means nothing by it, you already know exactly how to respond. The first rule is this: stop being surprised. Marcus Aurelius began nearly every single morning of his adult life reminding himself, in writing, that he would encounter dishonest, envious, and ungrateful people that day. And he did this not out of pessimism, but out of preparation. He understood something most people refuse to accept, which is that a certain percentage of every social circle, every workplace, every family gathering will always contain people who are not what they present themselves to be. The moment you expect this, rather than being shocked by it every single time it happens, you stop wasting emotional energy on outrage and start directing that same energy towards smart, calm decision-making. The untrained mind experiences betrayal by a fake friend as a personal tragedy each time it happens, as though the universe has made a special exception to hurt them specifically. The Stoic mind expects it, the way a sailor expects storms, not because he wants storms, but because refusing to prepare for them is what actually sinks the ship. The second rule is to judge actions across time, not words in a single moment. Fake people are almost always identified not by what they say, because words cost nothing and can be manufactured instantly to fit whatever the moment requires, but by the pattern of what they actually do across weeks, months, and years. Epictetus taught that you should judge a man not by what he claims about himself, but by his actions, because actions are the only currency that cannot be counterfeited convincingly for long. A person who says, "I am always here for you," but has canceled on you the last 5 times you needed something, has already told you exactly who they are, and the words simply have not caught up to the truth yet. The Stoic rule here is simple and brutally effective. Stop listening to declarations and start keeping a quiet, honest ledger of actions, because a person's pattern, given enough time, will always reveal what their words are trying to hide. The third rule is to withhold your full trust until it is earned in tested conditions, not comfortable ones. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, warned repeatedly against the modern habit, which existed even in his time, of trusting people simply because they were pleasant during easy periods of life. Anyone can appear loyal during a celebration, during a season when nothing is required of them except showing up and smiling. The real test of a person's character, Seneca insisted, only becomes visible under pressure, during your failures, your embarrassments, your financial struggles, the moments when loyalty actually costs something. A fake person reveals themselves precisely during the moments when standing beside you becomes inconvenient, expensive, or socially risky. And this is exactly why the Stoic rule is to reserve deep trust, not for people who are fun during the good years, but for people who have already proven themselves during at least one genuinely difficult season. The fourth rule, and one of the most liberating rules in this entire list, is to release yourself from the responsibility of fixing a fake person's character. So many people waste years of emotional energy trying to convert a fake friend into a genuine one, trying to prove their own loyalty so convincingly that the other person will finally reciprocate it, trying to explain, argue, and negotiate someone into becoming a person they were never actually going to become. Epictetus divided the entire world into two categories, things within your control and things outside of it, and another person's sincerity sits firmly, permanently in the category you do not control. You can control your own honesty, your own boundaries, your own response to being betrayed, but you cannot control whether a fake person decides on their own to stop performing and start actually caring. The moment you stop trying to fix them and simply accept who they have already shown you they are, an enormous weight lifts off your chest that you did not even realize you were carrying. The fifth rule is to stop mistaking proximity for loyalty. Just because someone has been in your life for 10 years, just because they grew up in the same neighborhood, just because they are technically family, does not automatically make them trustworthy.
Ancient Rome was full of blood relatives who betrayed each other for political advantage, and history is full of decades-long friendships that ended the moment one person's success became inconvenient for the other. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire full of advisors and family members, learned to evaluate people based on their actual character and conduct, not the number of years they had occupied a seat at his table. The Stoic understands that time spent together is not evidence of loyalty. It is simply evidence of time spent together, and the only thing that actually proves loyalty is conduct under pressure, tested repeatedly over that same span of time. The sixth rule is to never explain your success to people whose entire self-image depends on you staying smaller than them. This is one of the more uncomfortable rules on this list because it requires acknowledging a category of fake people almost nobody wants to admit exists in their own life. People who liked you better when you were struggling. These are the friends who disappeared the moment you got the promotion, the family members who suddenly develop opinions about your business the moment it starts succeeding, the acquaintances who were warm and encouraging right up until your success made your previous relationship to them feel unequal. The Stoic rule here is not bitterness, it is simply clarity. You are not obligated to shrink yourself, apologize for your progress, or explain your discipline to anyone whose friendship was conditional on your failure.
Their discomfort with your growth is information about them, not an instruction for you to change course. The seventh rule is to control the information you share, because a fake person cannot use ammunition you never handed them. This rule sounds cynical the first time you hear it, but it is one of the most practical rules a disciplined man or woman can apply. Fake people, by definition, do not have your best interests at heart, which means anything vulnerable you share with them, your fears, your failures, your financial struggles, your family conflicts, becomes potential material for gossip, manipulation, or quiet judgment the moment your relationship with them cools. Seneca warned that a secret told to even one untrustworthy person is no longer a secret. The Stoic rule is not to become paranoid or emotionally closed off to everyone, but to be deliberate about which relationships have earned the right to your full vulnerability and which relationships should only ever receive the surface-level version of your life. This is not dishonesty, it is discernment, and discernment is exactly what separates the disciplined from the naive. The eighth rule is to respond to fake kindness with genuine, unbothered civility, never with matching fakeness of your own. This is one of the hardest rules to actually practice, because the instinct, when you realize someone has been insincere with you, is to become cold, sarcastic, or quietly petty in return.
But Marcus Aurelius insisted over and over in his journal that the only thing you actually control is your own character, and lowering your own standard of conduct in response to someone else's fakeness is a defeat you inflict on yourself, not a punishment you inflict on them. The most powerful response to a fake person is not a clever comeback or a cold shoulder performance of your own. It is simply calm, unaffected civility, treating them exactly as courteously as the situation requires and not 1 degree warmer, which denies them the emotional reaction they may have even been hoping to provoke. The ninth rule is to reduce access gradually rather than dramatically. Most people, once they realize someone in their life is fake, want the satisfaction of a dramatic confrontation, a final speech that finally makes the fake person understand exactly how they've been perceived all along. But the Stoic approach is quieter and, in practice, far more effective. Epictetus taught that a wise person removes themselves from harmful influences the way a sailor quietly adjusts the sails rather than announcing a storm to the entire crew before it has even arrived. You do not need to explain your withdrawal, defend it, or seek agreement on it. You simply, gradually reduce the access this person has to your time, your information, and your emotional energy until their presence in your life reflects the actual value they have demonstrated rather than the value they claim to offer. The 10th rule is to remember that some fake people are not malicious, only fearful, and the response to each requires a different level of your energy.
Not every insincere person in your life is a calculating villain plotting your downfall. Some people perform friendliness because they are terrified of conflict, terrified of being disliked, terrified of losing social standing if they are honest about their actual feelings. This does not make their insincerity harmless, but it does change how a disciplined person responds to it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that people do wrong out of ignorance of what is actually good, not out of pure malice, and this understanding, rather than excusing the behavior, allows you to respond with a kind of detached compassion instead of personal outrage. You can reduce your trust in someone without hating them, and this distinction matters enormously for your own peace of mind, because carrying resentment toward every fake person you encounter is an enormous, unnecessary weight that serves absolutely nobody, least of all you. The 11th rule is to build your circle around demonstrated character, not convenient chemistry. This is where most people go wrong from the very beginning. They choose friends and partners based on how fun someone is, how good the conversation feels in the moment, how flattering someone's attention feels when you first meet them, and they mistake this initial chemistry for actual compatibility of character.
The Stoic approach is entirely different. It asks, does this person tell the truth even when it is uncomfortable? Does this person show up when it costs them something? Does this person celebrate my success as genuinely as they commiserate with my failures? These questions matter infinitely more than whether someone is entertaining at a dinner party. And building your inner circle around these questions, rather than around surface-level charisma, is precisely how the Stoics, despite living in one of the most politically treacherous environments in human history, managed to maintain genuinely loyal friendships that lasted entire lifetimes. The 12th rule the one that ties everything together, and the one almost nobody discusses in typical content about dealing with fake people, is this: your peace cannot depend on other people being real. This is the rule that actually sets you free, because every single one of the previous 11 rules, if practiced without this final understanding, can quietly turn into a new prison of hypervigilance, where you spend your entire life analyzing everyone's sincerity, testing every relationship for hidden motives, and trusting no one fully out of fear of being fooled again. The Stoic philosophy was never about becoming suspicious of the entire world. It was about building an inner citadel so stable that whether the people around you are genuine or fake becomes far less relevant to your actual peace of mind.
Epictetus lived as a slave under a master who could have been cruel or kind, honest or deceptive, and he built a philosophy that did not depend on the character of the people who surrounded him, because he understood that his tranquility could only ever be sourced from his own judgments, never from the guaranteed sincerity of everyone he encountered. This is the final, most important rule. You will meet fake people for the rest of your life. That is guaranteed. What is not guaranteed, and what is entirely within your control, is whether their insincerity is allowed to disturb the deeper, steadier peace you have built inside yourself. Now let's talk about what happens when you actually start applying all 12 of these rules simultaneously in your daily life, because there is a transition period that nobody warns you about, and it can feel strange, even lonely, before it feels liberating. When you stop being surprised by insincerity, when you judge actions instead of words, when you reserve trust for tested relationships, when you release the burden of fixing other people's character, when you stop mistaking proximity for loyalty, when you refuse to shrink for people uncomfortable with your growth, when you control your vulnerability, when you meet fakeness with calm civility instead of matching pettiness, when you quietly reduce access instead of staging dramatic confrontations, when you respond to fear-based insincerity with detached compassion, when you build your circle around character instead of chemistry, and when you finally stop needing anyone else's sincerity to protect your own peace, your social circle will very likely shrink.
This is not a side effect to be feared. It is the entire point. Seneca warned explicitly that it is better to have a small handful of genuinely loyal friends than a crowded room of people whose loyalty evaporates the moment it becomes inconvenient. The discomfort of a smaller circle is temporary. The exhaustion of maintaining dozens of relationships built on performance rather than substance is permanent, and it quietly drains a person for decades if they never apply these 12 rules and simply accept fakeness as the unavoidable cost of having any social life at all. There is also something important to say about the version of you that existed before you understood these 12 rules, because it is easy, once you learn them, to become harshly critical of your past self for trusting the wrong people, for being fooled, for handing your vulnerability to someone who clearly did not deserve it in hindsight. The Stoics would reject this kind of self-punishment entirely. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that judging events from the vantage point of hindsight and then condemning your past self for not knowing what you could not have known at the time is its own form of irrationality. You trusted people based on the information you had in that moment. The fact that new information has since revealed their insincerity is not evidence that you were foolish. It is simply evidence that you have grown in discernment. And growth in discernment is precisely the outcome these 12 rules are designed to produce.
Extend the same detached compassion that Rule 10 extends to fearful, insincere people, and you will find that the process of applying these lessons becomes far less bitter and far more genuinely peaceful. So here is the honest truth this video is built around, and it is a truth most motivational content is too afraid to say out loud because it is not comfortable, but it is accurate. You will never eliminate fake people from your life entirely. There is no city to move to, no new social circle to join, no amount of success or spiritual growth that will filter every insincere person out of your future permanently. Fakeness is simply a feature of large, complex human societies, and it existed in ancient Rome exactly as it exists in your comment section, your workplace, and your extended family today. The goal was never to eliminate fake people. The goal, the entire purpose behind these 12 rules, is to build a version of yourself so grounded, so clear-eyed, so unbothered by other people's performances that fake people lose their power over your emotional state entirely. When you stop being surprised, when you judge patterns instead of promises, when you release the need to fix or convert anyone, when you protect your vulnerability, when you respond to insincerity with calm rather than matching pettiness, and above everything else, when your peace no longer depends on the sincerity of the people around you, you become nearly untouchable by the very category of person that used to exhaust you the most.
If these 12 rules gave you even one moment of clarity today, one specific person's face that came to mind while you were listening, one relationship you are finally ready to see clearly instead of hopefully, then do 3 things before you leave this video. Subscribe to this channel because we are building a serious library of Stoic discipline for people who are done being naive and ready to build real, unshakable peace. Comment below with which of these 12 rules you needed to hear the most today, because I read every single comment, and this community is quietly becoming one of the most honest, most grounded audiences on this entire platform. And if there is someone in your life right now who is exhausted from being fooled over and over by the same kind of person, send them this video today. Because sometimes the most valuable gift you can give someone is not sympathy for being hurt again, but the 12 rules that finally stop it from happening. Thank you for spending the last 30 minutes protecting your peace instead of giving it away for free. I will see you in the next one.